welcome back to Up the Villa podcast for our opposition preview. And I have got the legend, Adam Pearson. Great to have you on the show, mate. I watch your vlogs and I've got to say your hotel overnight stays are literally the best. So you keep me entertained anyway. So how are you? All right?
I'm good, Luke. Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you on screen here. And as for the hotel vlogs, the sooner I forget about them, the better, because I'm still a bit sore from ones in America and just weren't very good. But listen, we're back with the Premier League season this week. I can't wait for it. I just think it came out of nowhere, to be honest. I forgot it kind of started this week. I got back from America last week and all of a sudden, Premier League's less than a week away. I just couldn't believe it. So I'm happy to be back now. I think it's a great time for both clubs. Both of us are back in Europe this season. And I think, it's fair to say I think both of us are quite excited.
Yeah, definitely. So as a Newcastle fan, how are you feeling? Because you've been on a great journey so far. And this season you're getting to play Champions League football. So how are you feeling about the season? You excited?
Yes, I'm excited on a personal level. I've got a chance to go to Champions League away matches for the first time in my lifetime. So I can't wait to do that. It's going to be such a surreal feeling. I think once the draw comes out, it'll be that reality when it kicks in and realise we actually are back in the Champions League. It's incredible to do it so early as well. I will say it's our first full season since the takeover. Our ownership came in 2 Octobers ago now. We've had half a season staying up from relegation, finishing 11th, and now we've managed to secure our top 4. And I think for more or less the entire season, we've been in the top 4 as well. So it's not just kind of jumping in and out. We've actually always been there, which I think is amazing. Newcastle just been so good on the pitch. It's going to be interesting now to see how we can operate when we've got the Champions League matches. I think our squad's still quite inexperienced. The majority of them are in the likes of Kieran Trippier. I've just never played in the Champions League before. So you've got that balance now when you're playing on a Tuesday or Wednesday night away somewhere like Spain. You then come over and play your matches on the Saturday. So it's quite a lot for the team to take in. I think expectations will be extremely high, but I just can't wait to see this season regardless.
Yeah, and we were both on the same pre-season tour. So how has your pre-season been as a whole, and how's the new signings coming in? Because I think as a far from an onlooker looking at Newcastle with your takeover, everybody sort of probably expected you to sign, these 90, 100 million pound players, but you haven't really done that. And your recruitment has been very savvy, I would say, and really good. This window you've brought in Tonali, Barnes, and Livramento. So how do you feel like the squad's shaping up, and how's your pre-season been?
Well, the pre-season's been great. We've won 5 and drew 2. Haven't lost a single game, so we've been unbeaten this pre-season. Of course, you've seen the Newcastle game over in the USA tour. And our point of view, I think Newcastle have been great. I think the squad depth is actually much better than what we as the fans think. We've got youth players like Eddie Arnes and Lewis Murray just popping out of nowhere. I mean, players that I would argue are ready to play Premier League football. So that was one thing. As for the signings, I mean, yes, we've only brought in 3 so far, and they're probably not. I mean, Tonali could argue against, but the players probably aren't the biggest stars you could see out there. But even then, Newcastle still spent loads of money. I think they spent £140 million in the 3 players. I mean, Tonali was around 50 at 60, Harvey Barnes is 40, Livramento was around 40. So what I mean, it's so much money now. I think that's probably our main problem, because on the financial fair play, we can only spend what the club generates. Even this day and age, I mean, you're paying £40 million for Harvey Barnes, who's just been relegated with Leicester and has to leave the club anyway. It's so much money. I mean, every player, Livramento was a 20-year-old right back that was injured the entirety of last season, and he cost around £40 million as well. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it with the players you bring now. It's so expensive players nowadays. And Newcastle, I think we have spent well. I don't think we're done yet. I think we will still sign somebody else. I think there's still areas the picture had to be filled in. But ultimately, Eddie Howe's clearly looked at the squad and went, well, listen, we're going to get some players in that's going to help beef up the bone a bit. I think Newcastle last season, especially towards the end when the injuries start picking up, we were a bit depleted. And I think this season, when you got those Champions League matches, they play even more games in a higher level of competition. That's why you've got to have those players ready. I like Harvey Barnes a lot from what I've seen so far. I think he's someone that's always got 10 plus goals and assists for the last 4 seasons at Leicester. I mean, statistically, he's someone that scores goals, and that's exactly what Newcastle United needs. He may not be the flair player that Saint-Maximin was, but ultimately, I actually do think it's probably better business for Newcastle to sell Saint-Maximin and bring Harvey Barnes as a replacement, because I think the guy will score goals, and that's exactly what we need out wide. But as for the other signings, Tonali hasn't I haven't really seen much of him. He's played a bit now and again. I haven't been impressed, shall we say, so far. And Livramento hasn't played, so I can only judge on what I've seen. But Harvey Barnes is definitely one I've liked the most so far.
And he always scores against Villa as well. So
Yeah.
he's got a record. So he does always bag against the Villa. So you mentioned earlier about expectation, and with success, always there becomes an expectation from the fans. So as a Newcastle fan this season, what are the expectation from the fans? You know, I imagine it's Champions to qualify for that again, or are you just looking at a good Champions League and some form of Europe? So, your point of view, what are you after this season?
Well, I think it will be quite varied. I think different fans want different things. I think even opposition fans, I don't think anyone's actually put Newcastle to finish top 4 again, which I think does say quite a lot. For me personally, I don't think it's realistic for us to finish top 4 again. You got to remember as well, last season, the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea dropped off. Surely one of them's going to pop up this season. You already got the likes of both the Manchester teams there. You got Arsenal. You got the likes of, I know Tottenham were rubbish last season, but who knows? They might pop up again without European football. So you've got all these levels of competition now, and on top of that, you got teams like Brighton and Villa that have been knocking on the door of actually being able to get into Europe. It's a lot for Newcastle, but my personal, I guess, ambitions or aspirations, I would want Newcastle to finish anywhere in Europe, league form. So I believe that's top 8 now, because I think the 5th slot opens up for the Champions League. I think so. Just anywhere Europe would be good for me. And as for the actual competitions itself in the Champions League and the domestic honours as well, I just want Newcastle to try and win something. We got close last season, we lost to Man U in the final. I want us to get back there and try and do it again. So I think my ambition is actually more towards the cup side of things. It's been so long since Newcastle won a major honour. I think that for me is probably the thing we should be trying to do next. But if we can try and solidify top 6 in the league or just anywhere European, I think it's good. And anywhere in the cup is where you want to try and get as far as possible. So if we can do both of them, I think it's a good season for Newcastle. But honestly, just any form of European football going to next year, I think we've got something to work with.
Yeah, so we'll touch on the weekend then. It's a big game. I'd say it's a difficult start for both sides, but I think for me, when I look at the fixtures, I actually want to play like a good side first, because I think you can get caught. We've been caught out so many times. Like last season, we lost on the opening day to Bournemouth. So I think for us, looking forward to the game, you know, it's a good challenge and it's a good test. And Villa have to be bang at it to get anything out of the game. So what are you expecting from the game? Do you think it's going to be sort of like a tight cage game, or do you think it's going to be like a spillover from pre-season where there's just loads of goals? I mean, our game was finished 3-3, didn't it, in pre-season? So what vibe do you think it's going to be on Saturday?
Well, I do get the impression it's going to be high scoring. Even the games last season were high scoring. I know you can't really judge the away match for you guys. You didn't have a manager, but Newcastle, of course, got 4-0 in that game. He then battered us 3-0 at your stadium. And I think for Newcastle, they probably will be kind of looking back on that game, because I think that's probably the one time last season where I think an opposition team honestly just had us for 90 minutes. So I think Newcastle will look back in a game like that and they'll be thinking, well, you know, Aston Villa managed to do this, this, and this against us. How can we combat against that? And I think this opening game is huge for both teams. I think the fact that both teams have European football, the Champions League doesn't start till about a month into the season, so Newcastle have to try and get as many points as possible before those games come along. And with our fixtures as well, they're so hard at the start. We had Villa at home, Liverpool at home. We've got Brighton away, Man City away in the first 4 matches. I mean, you couldn't have got harder fixtures. It has to be crazy hard fixtures. So it's up to us to try and get as many points as possible before that. I think we do need to gain some momentum. But I think the first game, the fact it is at St James's Park, I think will heavily benefit Newcastle. I think for any team coming to St James's Park now, it's just so hard to try and get a result there. I think only 2 teams last season beat us away. That was Arsenal and Liverpool. So I'm confident Newcastle can at least draw the game, to be honest. We'll see how things go, but I'm actually excited. I just think Newcastle will learn their lessons from Villa Park. I think we'll go down on Saturday, and I just fancy us to honestly be a high-scoring game, but I think Newcastle will hopefully have a good game and just dominate the play, I would like to say.
Yeah, I'm going to the game, to be fair. So I am looking forward to it, but I know it's going to be difficult. We've done our match preview and I've predicted 1-1 because I think it's going to be quite tight. I think, like you say, you know, for you guys looking back, but I think Emery's record against Eddie Howe, he's sort of beating 4 times out of 4. So I think Eddie Howe will be quite cautious of Emery and Villa, and being the first game, neither side wants to get off to a difficult start. So it's been great having you on the channel, mate, and hopefully I'll speak to you in about half a season's time and we can see where we all are.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on.
Cheers. Up the Villa.